I'm Jeremy. Today is day 109 of reading. Today we're reading Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Let's get started. We are on page 268. Safe to let go of him when Snape had seen them out of the castle and they were making their ways across the vegetable patch toward the greenhouses. The herbology class was very subdued. There were now two missing from their number, Justin and Hermione. Professor Sprout set them all work pruning the Abyssinian shrivel figs. Harry went to tip an armful of withered stalks onto the compost heap and found him face to face with Ernie Macmillan. Ernie took a deep breath and said, very formally, I just wanted to say, Harry, that I'm sorry I ever suspected you. I know you never attack Hermione Granger, and I apologize for all the stuff I said. We're all on the same boat now, and, well, he held out a pudgy hand, and Harry shook it. Ernie and his friend Hannah came to work at the same shrivel fig as Harry and Ron. That Draco Malfoy character, said Ernie, breaking off dead twigs. He seems very pleased about all this, doesn't he? Do you know? I think he might be Slytherin's heir. That's very clever of you, said Ron, who didn't seem to have forgiven Ernie as readily as Harry. Do you think it's Malfoy, Harry? Ernie asked. No, said Harry, so firmly that Ernie and Hannah stared. A second later, Harry spotted something. Several large spiders were scuttling over the ground on the other side of the glass, moving in an unnaturally straight line as though taking the shortest route to a prearranged meeting. Harry hit Ron over the hand with his pruning shears. Ouch! What are you? Harry pointed out the spiders, following their progress with his eyes screwed up against the sun. Oh, yeah, said Ron, trying and failing to look pleased. We can't follow them now. Ernie and Hannah were listening curiously. Harry's eyes narrowed as he focused on the spiders. If they pursued their fixed course, there could be no doubt about where they would end up. Looks like they're heading for the forbidden forest. And Ron looked even unhappier about that. At the end of the lesson, Professor Sprout escorted the class to their Defense Against Dark Arts lesson. Harry and Ron lagged behind the others so they could talk out of earshot. We'll have to use Invisibility Cloak again, he told Ron. We can take Fang with us. He's used to going into the Force with Hagrid. He might be able to help. Right, said Ron, who was twirling his wand nervously in his fingers. Aren't there supposed to be werewolves in the forest? He added, as they took their usual places at the back of Lockhart's classroom. Preferring not to answer that question, Harry said, there are good things in there too. The centaurs are all right, and the unicorns. Ron had never been into the Forbidden Forest before. Harry had entered it only once and hoped never to do so again. Lockhart bounded into the room, and the class stared at him. Every other teacher in place was looking grimmer than usual, but Lockhart appeared nothing short of buoyant. Come now, he cried, beaming around him. Why all these long faces? People swapped exasperated looks, but nobody answered. Don't you people realize, said Lockhart, speaking slowly, as though they were all a bit dim, the danger has passed. The culprit has been taken away. Says who? Said Dean Thomas loudly. My dear young man, the Minister of Magic wouldn't have taken Hagrid if he hadn't been 100% sure that he was guilty, said Lockhart, in the tone of someone explaining that 1 and 1 made 2. Oh, yes he would, said Ron, even more loudly than Dean. I flatter myself I know a touch more about Hagrid's arrest than you do, Mr. Weasley, in Lockhart in a self-satisfied tone. Ron started to say that he didn't think so, somehow, but stopped in mid-sentence when Harry kicked him hard under the desk. We weren't there, remember? Harry muttered. But Lockhart's disgusting cheeriness, since that he had always thought Hagrid was no good, his confidence evidence that the whole business was now at the end irritated Harry so much that he yearned to throw Gaddy Goals right into Lockhart's stupid face. Instead, he contented himself with scrawling a note to Ron. "Let's do it tonight." Ron read the message, swallowed hard, and looked sideways at the empty seat usually filled by Hermione. The sight seemed to stiffen his resolve, and he nodded. The Gryffindor common room was always very crowded these days, because from 6 o'clock onward, the Gryffindors had nowhere else to go. They also had plenty to talk about, with the result that the common room often didn't empty until past midnight. Harry went to go get the invisibility cloak out of his trunk right after dinner and spent the evening sitting on it, waiting for the room to clear. Fred and George challenged Harry and Ron to a few games of exploding snap, and Ginny sat watching them, very subdued in Hermione's usual chair. Harry and Ron kept losing on purpose, trying to finish the games quickly. But even so, it was well past midnight when Fred, George, and Ginny finally went to bed. Harry and Ron waited for the distant sound of 2 dormitory doors closing before seizing the cloak, throwing it over themselves, and climbing through the portrait hole. It was another difficult journey through the castle, dodging all the teachers. At last they reached the entrance hall, slid back the lock on the oak front doors, squeezed between them, trying to stop any creaking, and stepped out onto the moonlit grounds. "Chorus," said Ron abruptly as they strode across the black grass. "We might get to the forest and find there's nothing to follow. The spiders might not have been going there at all. I know it looked like they were moving in that sort of general direction, but..." His voice trailed away, hopefully. They reached Hagrid's house, sad and sorry looking with its black blank windows. When Harry pushed the door open, Fang went mad with joy at the sight of them. Worried he might make everyone at the castle with his deep, booming barks, they hastily fed him treacle fudge from a tin on the mantelpiece, which glued his teeth together. Harry left the invisibility cloak on Hagrid's table. There would be no need for it in the pitch-dark forest. "Come on, Fang, we're going for a walk," said Harry, patting his leg. And Fang bounded happily out of the house behind them, dashed to the edge of the forest, and lifted his legs against a large sycamore tree. Harry took out his wand, murmured "Lumos!" and a tiny light appeared at the end of it, just enough to let them watch the path for signs of spiders. "Good thinking," said Ron. "I'd light mine too. But it'd probably blow up or something." Harry tapped Ron on the shoulder, pointing at the grass. 2 solitary spiders were hurrying away from the wand light into the shade of the trees. "Okay," Ron sighed, as though resigned to the worst. "I'm ready. Let's go." So, with Fang scampering around them, sniffing tree roots and leaves, they entered the forest. By the glow of Harry's wand, they followed the steady trickle of spiders moving along the path. They walked behind them for about 20 minutes, not speaking, listening hard for noises other than breaking twigs and rustling leaves. Then, when the trees had become thicker than ever, so that the stars overhead were no longer visible, and Harry's wand shone alone in the sea of dark, they saw their spider guides leaving the path. Harry paused, trying to see where the spiders were going, but everything outside his little sphere of light was pitch black. He had never been this deep in the forest before. He could vividly remember Hagrid advising him not to leave the forest path the last time he'd been here. But Hagrid was miles away now, probably sitting in a cell in Azkaban, and he had also said to follow the spiders. Thank you, everyone. That's all for today. Bye. See you tomorrow.